All right, big news for the Seminoles today. Big news for DBU as they get another commit here in the 2025 class. One that probably doesn't shock a lot of people, but one that should excite everybody. Gregory Zae Thomas. We'll just call him Zae Thomas because that's what he likes to go by. Picks the Seminoles over the Clemson Tigers. And you think back to recent recruiting, and I'm not saying there's none, but you think back to like recent recruiting wins, and Florida State has not fared very good against Clemson in head-to-head battles. They just haven't. And that's not to say they haven't won any of them, but for a long time, Clemson has either just targeted different guys or gotten the better of Florida State over the last few years. Last year, they had an offensive lineman that Florida State tried to flip and ended up canceling his visit, was going to flip to the Seminoles, and Dabo kind of shut that down. And the Seminoles just have not had success. Now, I know you guys are going to comment with the one or two wins that we've had over the last year. That's fine. On the whole, Florida State not super successful when they've had to go up against Clemson head-to-head. They've got some wins against Miami. They've got some wins against Florida. They don't target as many guys that Clemson is targeting, but here's a big win for the Noles. A 6'2 cornerback, 190 pounds out of American Heritage High School, of course, where Pat Surtain used to coach when he was in high school ball. Obviously, the relationships there are big. We'll talk about Pat here in just a moment. But a top 200 athlete, according to 247 Sports. He's a 4-star on the industry rankings and the composite. Kid's really, really impressive. His size, his verticality, his length is really, really good. Obviously, at that corner position, can kind of play that boundary. His length is what stands out at you. And he can go up against big wide receivers, big 6'3", 6'4" wide receivers, and, be that shutdown corner that you're looking for. He is really, really good. His length and his physicality give you that chance. He was a starter at American Heritage High School. He played both cornerback and safety, and he uses his hands very well to jam wide receivers at the line of scrimmage. We're showing his highlights here. The huddle shows that. He does a good job just getting guys off at the line of scrimmage, winning those battles early, and then obviously sticking with guys. He's got good quickness. He could certainly improve on that some. If there was a place or a spot that you'd say, man, I'd like to see him improve here or get slightly better, it might be that top-end speed. He does run track, though. Clocked in 11.56 in the 100-meter dash. Runs in the 4x4 as well. So he is working on it. That is something that he's certainly getting better at. But again, can play safety if that quickness isn't there. I do really like him at corner, though. I think by the time he gets to college, being developed under Pat Surtain, which we'll talk about a little bit in a moment, and I think that's where he'll end up playing. Willing and solid as a tackler for sure. I think he's a kid. You get some corners out there, especially in South Florida, right? We'll call a spade, who don't necessarily want to tackle, don't want to come up for those big hits. And you've seen some kids at Florida State not be afraid of that, whether it be Jarian Jones or Conrad Hussey last year. I know he plays back further, but in the safety position. But Florida State wants their guys to come up and hit and wants their guys to come up and tackle, and he certainly is a willing tackler as well. He's an impact-type player, and that's everything you'll read about him, everything you'll see about him today or tomorrow or the next few days as you're looking up his film and different things, is this kid can make an impact and certainly makes an impact for his high school team now, certainly expected to make an impact for them, that factory that is American Heritage High School, his senior year right now, and then obviously Florida State expects him to get on campus and make a pretty big impact for them as well. Listen, I want to talk about Pat Surtain a little bit, but first I do want to give some love to our friends over at Garnet and Gold. Listen, if you're in the market for any FSU apparel, whether you're looking for t-shirts, hoodies, you're looking for the new jersey, you're looking for anything in 7 because you like that teal, the Native American shout-out stuff, make sure that you're shopping at Garnet and Gold. Nike, Columbia, doesn't matter what you're looking for. They will get you taken care of. You can use our code NOSLAW, NOSLAW, to get 15% off of your order. They do a phenomenal job. It's the best retailer for FSU gear and clothing that you can find. If you're local to Tallahassee, you can order online, use the code, and then do in-store pickup. If you're getting it shipped, just buy a little bit more. $75 or more is free. Usually gets to you in a day or two if you're in the state of Florida. So again, garnetandgold.com. Use our code NOSLAW to get 15% off. Pat Surtain gets a massive shout out here. And of course, we always shout out the primary recruiter or the coach that's going to be bringing these kids in. But there is no bigger link than a kid that's an elite talent going to American Heritage High School. massive for Florida State to have been playing chess, not checkers, when they got Pat Surtain to really work on those South Florida relationships, and no relationship stronger than where you're getting this kid from right now. I honestly think that like what he's able to do from a development standpoint as well is the best sell that there is in really the big three at the DB position, probably the entire ACC as well. But you've got a kid who played it. A coach who played it, who coached his kid to end up playing in the league. You've got a guy who has put multiple guys into the NFL and made them super successful, and really has succeeded at all levels of coaching defensive backs, and succeeded at all levels of playing defensive back. Other coaches might be able to tell you how to do it. Pat Surtain lived it, and I think that's huge. And it's why Florida State, who very much considers themselves DBU, it's why they have continued to recruit extremely well at defensive back. And, Florida State will always recruit very well at defensive back. I mean, and to be fair, so will Florida. I mean, so will LSU. There are big programs. They're going to recruit well there. But Florida State, even through some of the hard times, like, recruited extremely well at defensive back. You think about the guys they brought in last year. You think about the guys they brought in the year before. Florida State's done a very, very impressive job of continuing to bring in elite talent there in the secondary. And that's what they want to do. They want to be shut down. They want to be hard-nosed on defense, and they want to get the best of the best back there. And when you get the most elite talent out of South Florida, you get those dogs, and you get them up to Tallahassee, and then you let them be coached by somebody like Pat Surtain. It's truly the best of both worlds. There are certain recruiters and coaches and developers on the staff, certain coaches that are much more skilled in developing kids. And there are certain recruiters on the staff that are much more skilled in just getting kids in, and they're not the best developers, right? And though the staff, I think in general, leans a little bit more development heavy than recruiting heavy, Pat Surtain really does check both boxes for you, because he can land the really, really elite kids, but he can also do a really phenomenal job of getting the absolute most out of them. And he's one of the best developers on staff. He's also one of the best recruiters on staff. And so he's one of your best coaches. He's a coach that others are going to be coming after. He's a coach that others are going to be trying to take away. And you've got to hold on to him, because wins like today, big moments like today, are a direct result of having Pat Surtain as your defensive backs coach. You're not winning a big battle like this with a South Florida DB, South Florida cornerback with this kind of size and athleticism without the Battles End being involved. So big shout out, of course, to our NIL collective. And then big shout out to Mike Norvell. This has been quite the streak that the Seminoles have been on, landing commits day after day after day, it seems like, and they're not anywhere close to done yet. We've talked about some of the different guys that we expect to be in this class. We've talked about some of the different guys that we think the Noles are in good standing with. That continues to change and update and get a little bit more intricate here or there. We know they've landed some big targets already, and they've got more coming here in the next few days. If you want to keep up with all of that, you can click the link in the description that takes you to our Patreon. Our Patreon is how you get access to our Discord, where we are constantly updating, and we let our Discord members know about this commitment before it happened. And if you want to get the inside scoop, the inside look at what's happening there, make sure that you're part of our Patreon. You can join for just $3 a month. It's patreon.com/DFNS, and we'll make sure that you're updated on all of that. Listen, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. YouTube thinks that you should watch this next video on the screen now. So go ahead and do me a favor and click it and check it out. We'll talk to you guys soon. Go Noles.